Welcome everyone to another CTC Software webinar. My name is Sean Zerbis, the Director of BIM Development here at CTC Software, and in today's session, we're going to continue the HIVE CMS Admin Learning Series, talking in depth about using some of the advanced search filtering available in the HIVE CMS. So let's kind of dig in and talk a little bit about what we're going to cover today. I mean, we're searching in HIVE, and sometimes we use filters, but sometimes the basic filtering in the environment, at least for us admins especially, just isn't enough. I mean, HIVE has some powerful filtering, and there's just sometimes we need to go one step further and get a little bit more advanced. So the filter panel in the HIVE CMS does have an advanced set of controls. It really gives you as admins better criteria for searching, but it usually is a little more advanced than most users are ready for. So here, I'm going to cover a bit more about those advanced searching controls. I want to describe how you can leverage this, and even in some cases, how you might throw them into some of your saved searches to really make things a little bit more efficient for your end users without them even really knowing it, perhaps, depending on how you're using the system here. So we're going to go over a couple of things. I'm going to describe to you what the advanced filtering criteria is, what it means. We're going to leverage it so we can actually really better filter some of that corporate content, especially again for us admins. We are going to use it for some advanced filters and a little bit in saved searches. And as a part of that, we're going to talk about how you can really round out your search capabilities using these advanced options, and once again, in some cases, even obscure it from the end users because they probably won't pay attention to it, and yet you can use this to, in some cases, give them better results. Now, as always, of course, our webinars are recorded. As you're here live, you can certainly ask us questions. We encourage you to throw them in the questions window while we're going through this topic, and if we can answer it in line, we will. And we also, of course, have a huge Q&A session saved at the end for the questions that don't work well in line throughout the presentation today. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go live into the HIVE product, and we're going to start talking at first about what is the advanced filtering criteria, and even really where do you find it. So I'm going to pull HIVE up over here, and with HIVE opened up, we're on the main search page here, and I'm going to run some kind of a search. Maybe I'm looking for, I don't know, doors or something, right? Let me type this again, doors, and just run a search and kind of see what shows up. So in this case, I'm going to get a bunch of things that somehow match doors, which probably is matching directly a Revit filter. In some cases, you can even get it to automatically filter over here for doors in the Revit filters area. But what we're focusing on today, because normally this is going to look like this, right? It's going to be the libraries, the tags. If you have Revit, you'll be primarily filtering through the Revit area. If you have AutoCAD, to be primarily filtering through the AutoCAD area. If you use both, well, you might have both open, and depending on what your options are, if you're checking only Revit content or only AutoCAD content, the other category might collapse itself automatically. That's just some basic filtration, and these filters are fantastic for really digging deeper into the content and isolating exactly what you're looking for. That's the intent of these filters. But now, we're going to dig a little deeper into this area right here, which is the advanced filters, an area we don't typically expand when we're searching here natively in the HIVE, at least not as normal end users, but as BIM managers and content admins, this can sometimes give you a little bit extra control and a little bit deeper a search result that might be meaningful for you. Okay. So over here in this area, in the advanced filters, there's a couple of things you can filter. We're going to kind of describe what the advanced filtering criteria is. We have file extensions. We have some rating controls here. We have start and end dates for when content was added, so added after, added before. We have updated after and before, or start and end dates. We have who added it and who last updated it. A lot of these bottom ones here are really targeting those of you in the BIM manager front. These upper ones, well, the file extensions and the minimum rating, those can sometimes, be used by end users, and we'll take a look in a little while here where you might sneak those into your saved searches, depending on what you're trying to achieve here. So let's take a look at how we can leverage some of these filters and what this might tell us about the content, why we might begin to use this. All right, I'm going to give you a little scenario here as to what I'm going to try to find. I know that there's a particular user in my firm who's added a bunch of content, and maybe they were adding it in squirrely ways or not tagging it in ways that I was expecting, or maybe they were an older user who's no longer at the firm, and I want to try to replace their name in a lot of places, updating certain things or finding out where some of their content was added, right? This is, again, a very management level filtration kind of thing. And so what I'm going to be focusing on here is this area down here, the added by or updated by a specific user. Now let's find an example where there's a specific user who perhaps I'm searching for. There's two of us who commonly add content to this particular environment. It's myself, Sean Zerbis, and then the other guy is Chris Bircher. And so I'm going to ignore those two names, but any names that are not those two is kind of what I'm looking for. And there's one in particular that I know I'm searching for. So let me do a quick filter here. I'm going to search for doors. Specifically, I'm going to be looking in my corporate library for this because this is where I noticed this particular username pop up the most. And so I'm going to expand Hive a little bit wider, and we're going to leverage the details to look at something here. So if I go pick a door, let's just see here. This is Chris and me. That's fine. Perfect. That's what I'm expecting. Once again, Chris and me, or just me in this case. There we go. There's the name I was looking for. David Lowe. Now, David Lowe doesn't typically do a lot of administration here, and I think this got in during some testing, but I wanted to discover where else content was added by this user, or rather, perhaps even last updated by this user, just in case. So how would I filter for them? Well, I'm going to go down here into the advanced filters, which I intentionally currently have expanded. In fact, just to limit my screen here a little bit, I'm going to collapse the Revit filters right there and the AutoCAD filters, so I just have the advanced filters open. There is a filter set in here for doors, but I'm going to be specifically looking for added by David Lowe. And if I hit apply here, it's going to give me some other content. Now, I might decide to use this name. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to clear everything out, so I'm not searching just for doors anymore. Maybe I want to search for, and let's put an asterisk in here. I want to search for everything across my entire library and see what content perhaps was added by that particular user. There's another one here. There's a cabinet. So I'm able to isolate who added this. But perhaps, again, like I mentioned, even more importantly, I might want to know, I'm going to cut this out, who updated this particular piece of content last. I mean, added by is one thing, but if this person was the last one to update it as well, then maybe I care about that. And so I can filter for that and find out that there's these two components here, one of these BIM-M components and this particular cabinet component that was last updated by that particular user. And now I can go through and do something potentially with that content if there was something that I needed to do, since maybe this person's computer had different settings than mine. Maybe I wanted to, reprocess stuff because it's been a while since it was processed, whatever the case might be. Speaking of being a while since something was processed, I've also leveraged this to understand when my content was last updated, or when content, within a range, maybe, updated between this time and this time. Again, added is one thing, and added is sometimes important. Give me something that was added back in 2016. That's kind of interesting sometimes. But I care usually more personally about when it was last updated. Has it been maintained over time? Or is this content incredibly stagnant and maybe I need to do some processing to it? So what I want to look at is stuff that's been updated before some time, at this end date here. This is the last time something was updated. And so what I'm going to do is open up this date stamp here. I'm going to go to the year. Oh, look at that. It's already in 2019, because oddly, that was one of the last times I actually ran this particular update. So I'm going to go ahead and choose June 1st, this month on the 1st in 2019. Show me all of the content across my entire library and all of my libraries that were last updated at this point in time. So if I hit apply, I can run this search and I can see, like, this double door cabinet right here, this was last updated in 2018 by me, right? So maybe this thing needs a little bit of reprocessing. My view configuration document over here, again, hasn't been updated since 2018. And now in some cases, maybe that's okay. Maybe it doesn't need to be updated. But in a lot of cases, I've probably changed my standards since this time, or improved upon my standards. And maybe some of this content was updated but never got reprocessed back into Hive. And this will let me know that when was this stuff last processed. It was updated last at this time by this person, and now I can potentially add all of this to a processing list and reprocess a lot of this. In fact, I can even grab a bunch of this stuff here and I can update it right now. And what it will do is it will try to add these files in. Now, in this case, some of these files aren't even able to be found. You know, this particular one came from a room and board folder that was on my desktop. That's not even there anymore. So maybe that doesn't belong even in this list. So I can go through the exercise of, you know, cleaning up my library in a large part by just using these advanced filters for my own purposes as a BIM manager. Okay, so that can be pretty meaningful. Now, recently we talked in the management session about how to work with saved searches. And these advanced filters are really no different in saved searches than other things that I've implemented, right? So if I'm up here and I'm filtering for Revit content of a specific category in a specific library, and I also decide to leverage these advanced filters down here alongside of that for whatever purpose, I can simply save a search, just like I've done before. If I already have searches and I want to add the advanced filtration to them, I can simply overwrite existing searches that are in the list, either my own searches or shared saved searches that are associated with the company and groups that I'm a part of. I can update those if I have rights to do so, or potentially make brand new saved searches. In some cases, me as a BIM manager, I might make my own searches that I would run regularly that I wouldn't want the rest of the company to have, that leverage these advanced searches, you know, things not updated since blah time, and I can have that not updated since, you know, over a year or whatever the case may be. And then I just wouldn't share that with my organization. Of course, when you're making those types of advanced searches, you're probably going to want to make sure in the description you give some really clean descriptions. So when you're over here managing and maintaining your saved searches and you see that description, you'll know more about what was done, especially with those advanced filters. So now, where might this come into play for actual implementation in your firm within saved searches for other users? Okay, how might this be beneficial for them? Well, this is where some of these other kind of filters that I hadn't talked about much yet, where they might come into play, right? One of my saved searches that I do regularly is my own corporate CTC doors. I do this often. I've shared this with the firm. Everybody who does architecture has access to this particular search, and it runs a search and it finds me, in this case, my corporate content, just Revit stuff that's doors. Now, in some cases, there's plenty of times when users may have come in here and they may have reviewed something and it might be just straight up garbage. It might be a really big problem. And if that's the case, that's okay, right? Like if they write a review and they give this 1 star and, you know, something is really bad, I'm not going to put a really great description here, but something is really bad with this content, right? Whatever that might be. And they give it a really low rating. Well, that's good. If there's a bunch of other people who have rated this and they've given it great ratings, awesome. Well, just like with Amazon or, you know, the eBay or you name it, like with those ratings, it's the average rating that really counts. And that's what shows up here is the average rating. Now, if something has gotten really poor ratings over time, great. As a BIM manager, I probably don't want that showing up heavily in my end users' search results when they run my saved corporate search. I might want to intentionally cull out of the result list those really poorly rated pieces of content. And so one of the things I can do here in the advanced filters is I can go to the minimum rating and, you know, starting with nothing, no stars or completely unrated, all the way up to like maybe 2 stars, right? Maybe I want to cull out the 2-star stuff. And so it has to have at least that 2-star sort of rating, the 2 clicks in. Now, as I do that, there's a bunch of other stuff that doesn't have any ratings at all, and that's now going to get filtered out. But it's going to filter out things that are poorly rated or unrated or not really very useful for users. I can also use this myself to find things that have some kind of a poor rating. If I put it even at 1 star, I'll start to find the content that actually has some pretty poor ratings myself. But as my content gets more and more and more rated, the things that actually have good ratings, I could actually maybe make a saved search like CTC, CTC doors high rating. And then, you know, maybe I put my filter up here at a higher level so it gets rid of the garbage. And then as I save this search right here, let's make a new search called CTC doors highly rated, right? And if I could spell, that would be great. highly rated. And I'm going to share this with my organization, of course, selecting what groups I want to find this. And maybe my architecture team wants to be able to find these highly rated doors because that might be more what they care about. And then I can save this result. And as they find other doors and they begin to rate them and they find that they're good quality bits of content, fantastic, good for them, that stuff in that saved search up here, highly rated CTC doors, will automatically set this filter down here. Now, as users clear their filters out and go on with their work throughout the day, of course, that's going to get reset, and that's fine. That's what I expect. You know, they can run the normal CTC doors search. They can find a bunch of stuff, but if they're looking specifically for that highly rated content and they don't necessarily have the advanced filters open because they're just focusing on this upper area, that's perfectly fine, right? That's great. They can do that. They can search for whatever they need, regular doors or highly rated content, and they'll find that stuff in my filters that I've pre-applied. Even in the advanced filters area, those will get set. So I can leverage that for my purposes or also for sharing with the full company as a whole. That could be meaningful. All right, another way that you can leverage this if you're looking for, say, documentation is by using these file extension filters. If you know that specific things are all PDFs, or if you're looking only for certain kinds of imagery in your search results, you can actually leverage these filters for just imagery style searches. For, you know, if you're doing AutoCAD type work, you're looking for just list routines, you can filter for that, or you can look for just .scr files for scripts. There's a lot of things you can put in here because this is automatically generating this list directly based on what you've uploaded into your library. CTC templates exist inside of here. All of the file types will exist that you've uploaded and processed. Of course, you can filter for that directly in this list, but you can also use these in saved searches as well. Hey, I'm looking for something standards based. Well, great. Your standards are probably going to be either in DOC or DOCX format, or probably even more likely in a PDF style format. And so when I'm running a search here for shared, in this case, let's clear a lot of this out and go right back to PDFs. PDF standards here. It's going to only find me PDF results for that particular standards search. Maybe I have a shared search for that for just standards over here. Now I think, I don't actually have a standards search, and that's okay. I do have a standards library over here, standards and procedures. Some of those are documents. Some of those are Excel files, and they might be other file types in the mix as well. And so when I know somebody's looking for just truly a standards or a workflow or something, maybe I do filter for just PDFs. That's something that I can do. And then as an end user, it doesn't matter what library it's in. I don't have to know, you know, I've got a lot of libraries in the mix here. I don't have to know what library these things are in. I can simply filter for a file extension. I know I'm searching for a PDF, find me a shared PDF someplace, and it'll find that for me and save me a bunch of headache. And of course, I can save that. I can leverage this over and over again for those things that are common, even if the advanced filters for other users are collapsed, or even if I collapse it because I don't want it open. There's a lot of stuff here when that's open, right? That looks like a lot. And so a lot of the times I leave this collapsed unless I know I'm going to explicitly use it, but my saved searches can still inject properties into the advanced filters. And that's meaningful for me and for my team as they're running searches. All right.